10 seconds. Have a great show, everyone.
Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing.
Welcome to Finding Certainty. Very pleased to have you with us this morning. I'm incredibly excited about our guest today. Angel is a good friend. She is an award-winning speaker, author, 15 times best-selling author. She's a radio host, TV producer, and a PR media specialist. Her clients refer to her as the Media Matchmaker. And as we get into the show today, you're going to understand why, because she is award-winning and renowned for teaching her clients how to connect with media. Today, we're going to be talking about how this is and can be a much more effective way to get your message out, whether you're an author or an entrepreneur. How do you absolutely explode your brand, your book, your business, and do it through interviews on podcasts and radio shows, television, magazines, and so forth and so on. So, Angel, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Patrick. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it's not every day we get a guest of your caliber. Angel Tuccy is how you pronounce your name. And I'm excited. I'm excited to hear from you. I've read your book, and you and I have spoken several times, but I'm very excited to have our listening audience learn from one of the best.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I'm super excited. I've read your bio. I know you. I know what you're doing and what you're up to. And I think we're going to have a really fun and exciting conversation today.
Absolutely. So we're on different ends of the country. You're in Florida. I'm out in Henderson, Nevada. And you said you were just here a couple of weeks ago. It was cold here 2 weeks ago, but it's starting to warm up a little bit.
Yeah, I had my down jacket. It was surprising, even for the group that we were there with. Thought that it was going to be, it did warm up, it did redeem itself, but I moved from Denver, Colorado to Orlando, Florida 2 years ago. And now I have just learned that I need to travel with a down jacket, one of those little squishy down jackets in my bag, right? Because I get cold really easy, but you actually had some really, really frigid temperatures there for a few days.
Yeah, we forget we're kind of in the mountains and high desert. We think of Las Vegas as hot all the time, and just isn't. It doesn't get cold in the winters here. So my partner lives in Tampa, and he's always rubbing it in. It was cold today. It was 65 degrees this morning.
He's right. Like, it's so funny. My friend who lives here in Miami, when I told him I was moving from Denver to Florida, he said, 60 degrees is a beautiful day in Denver. We would, go out in short sleeves, and as long as the sun was shining, it was fantastic, beautiful. But now that I've been here for 2 years, 60 is a little chilly, and I need a jacket.
Yeah, we spent some time down in San Diego. We're there for a few years, and same thing. You get spoiled when you live in that kind of weather. But so anyway, starting out, I always like to share 2 reasons why I've invited this specific guest to be on the show. And as I said in the intro, Angel is a consummate expert on media. She's hosted thousands of radio broadcasts. She was in an award-winning radio show for a decade, right? Almost over 10 years.
Yes.
She's spoken on over 200 stages. She's interviewed over 5,000 guests. I mean, you should be interviewing me on this show, Angel, because you are the expert with over a decade in broadcasting, and you won several awards during that time and so forth. And now you've taken all of that expertise and that experience and those insights, and you're passing it on. You're paying it forward, as it were. And so that's the first reason I've asked Angel to be on our show, is that she is recognized as one of the foremost media experts in the country. So we're honored to have you here. Secondly, though, is your approach to helping these clients and helping them expand their brands and their businesses is very unique. We've talked about there's a hard way and there's an easy way, right? There's the one-on-one business meetings and the weekly networking meetings and these other approaches that so many of us do, so many small businesses are currently doing, compared to what you teach your clients. And there is a world of difference. One is exhausting and one can be absolutely exhilarating, right? And so I'm excited to hear, not only because you're an expert, but because your approach and what you're teaching your clients can really be transformational. And I'm experiencing it in our business, partly thanks to you and things you've taught me, and so forth. So looking forward to hearing from you in that regard.
Well, I can't wait to share. It is eye-opening when a business and an organization just takes on and just thinks about some different ways to build leads, create traffic back to their sales process, creating visibility, getting more people to say, I've heard of you, becoming that number one authority in your space. And unfortunately, we've just been taught some things that keep us really busy, but also broke, right? You've heard the statistics that most small businesses close within 3 to 5 years because they don't have enough clients and they don't have enough traction and traffic. And even those that survive, there's an epidemic of businesses that never even cross over that 6-figure mark. They don't take home a paycheck, right? They're just busy, but broke. And that is that one-to-one method, right? Of building, of networking, of filling your calendar with one-on-one sales calls, discovery calls, sending out text messages and, LinkedIn messages, trying to fill your calendar and just chasing after every little nugget, right? Of, okay, I got somebody on the call, because they don't have a method for building their list, creating visibility, creating exposure. And once we show them how fabulous leveraging the power of media, PR, interviews on other people's stages, all of that, it's a game changer. It's going to change your world. It's going to light you up, and it's going to be the answer you've been looking for. And so I'm happy to share that with you today.
Well, I couldn't agree more. As I said, I feel like I'm living proof of this topic, because, and I'm just, I still feel like I'm an infant in this arena, but I'm already starting to see more and more of exactly what you're talking about. And so we're going to get into that a little bit later in the show, but first let's get to know you a little bit. Tell us where you grew up and how did you get into this arena? Because I know, and I've heard you talk about how you, when you were young, you were shy. You were afraid of speaking in public or speaking in front of a class, and you've gone, obviously come a long way since then. But tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I was very shy growing up. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved around a lot. I was always entering into the school year, late into the school year. So after, groups and friendships had already been formed, like I was always the new kid. And then I often left school before the end of the year. So I never even got to do all the fun celebration and,
Right.
connect with my friends that I'd made during the school year. So we were moving all the time. I was incredibly shy, incredibly introverted. I'm still very introverted, but I had an incredible fear of public speaking that really showed up my senior year in high school, when I was required to graduate or required to take a public speaking class. And it was one of the required credits for graduating. And I couldn't even stand up in front of my peers and describe how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Right? My mouth dried up, butterflies, completely paralyzed in front of my peers. And one of the activities we did during that class was to go into our high school's radio studio booth. So we had a little studio booth in our high school. And all we had to do was sit in front of a microphone and read a piece of paper, ad copy, right? And just read it, but talk into a microphone. And I couldn't get volume, right? I couldn't even create any. I was so nervous, so scared with my classmates following and watching me. And what's interesting is my professor, my teacher that day said to me, Angel, you will never have a career in broadcasting. Now, what's interesting about that statement is I didn't remember that. It didn't sit with me. I didn't think I remembered it. They always say, that our brain like keeps every piece of information, right, that it has consumed. It wasn't until I think I was in my early 40s. I was doing a magazine article. We had just won Best Morning Talk Show for my radio show in Denver. And they asked me, Angel, have you always wanted to be in broadcasting? And that word, that phrase, like way back in the depths of my brain, somewhere had been buried for, 25 years, came flooding to the surface. And I remembered my teacher said to me, you will never have a career in broadcasting. And here I was being interviewed for a magazine after being recognized as Best Morning Talk Show team for a radio talk show in Denver, Colorado. And so I had come full circle.
That's such a great story. It's interesting because you talk about how you couldn't even explain how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You probably felt like you had peanut butter in your mouth, right? When you were doing that. And I've been there, right? I won a writing contest when I was about 12 years old and had to speak in front of the Rotary. I won a little cash prize, and it was a writing on peace contest, as I recall. And I was so petrified speaking in front of this group of 100, 200 people that I don't know if they could hear me, talking about the volume, right? I'm here to talk about had great topic.
Exactly.
My mom helped me write the talk, and she's an English professor, so it was well written, but I don't know if they could hear any of it. And so I think many of us have these memories of having stage fright or being shy or being nervous. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think there's some insights we could share with the group about how to overcome that and why it is and so forth. But I think it was Jay Leno who said most of us would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's really one of the reasons why I love teaching what I'm teaching, is because even if you're not a public speaker, even if you're not comfortable standing on stages and talking with audiences, the value of a podcast or a radio interview or even being in a magazine is you're in the privacy of your own home. Most of the time, it's only the audio that's being taken down. So it's just like talking on the phone. And so it takes away a lot of the stage fright. You don't have to prepare a presentation. It's a conversation. It's a dialogue. And you're talking about yourself. You're talking about the thing you're most passionate and most excited about. And it's your story. So it's not even something that you have to really research or prepare for. It's an absolute game changer, even for those who don't enjoy talking about themselves, speaking in public, or even have that comfort of doing a presentation in front of an audience. This allows you to still get your message out, even if you're not comfortable.
Right. Well, you can't get it wrong, right? Every one of us is an expert at something. And I love how you say it's just like a phone call. It's just a conversation. All of us can do that. And why do you think we struggle so much? Why is there so much fear of public speaking and that trepidation? In your experience, I mean, you've done thousands of interviews and you've talked to a lot of people who probably felt the same way, but why is it, do you think, so many of us put it as one of the top fears?
Oh, I've not studied why it is, but I mean, you're so vulnerable when you're the one in front of the room. Right. And everybody's sitting there. I think you feel like everybody's sitting there judging you, when in fact, it's the opposite. They're more thrilled that it's you on the stage than them. But, we feel like we're going to mess it up. Are we going to say the right thing? Am I going to be able to get my message? Like, there's so much head stuff that we're going through, but it is, you're very vulnerable standing in front of a room, sharing your thoughts, your ideas, and hoping that they all are on board and in somewhat agreement or fascinated, right, with what you're bringing to the table. So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure to stand up and be the person in front of the room.
Yeah, there is. And yet so much of it is self-imposed, right? It's in our head. Because like you said, they're happy you're speaking, not them, or really interested in what you have to say, or they're more focused about their problems than worried about what you're wearing or how you sound, or if you forget something. Because, and I heard some great advice years ago, and this was more of a sales, tip. They said, the customer doesn't know if you do it right or wrong. This is the first time they're hearing it. And so you could completely slaughter it as long as you're not misrepresenting yourself. Don't worry about if you do it perfectly or not, because to them, it's great, right? And if you're more
Exactly.
focused on them than on yourself, and more focused on serving than being served or being recognized or whatever, you're invariably going to do better. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, the best speakers will often tell you that they are still a little nervous before going on in front of an audience, and they channel that nervous energy into excitement. But it really is when you are there to serve the audience and it's not about you, you can get out of your own way and just know that I'm there to impact and I'm there to make a difference. And somebody here needs to hear this message.
100%. I heard some other advice years ago that said, we can change how we feel by changing our thoughts, right? And most of our negative thoughts are distorted. We lose our job, and the first thing we think is, oh my gosh, I'm going to be homeless, right? I'm never going to get another job. Well, that's not true. We take these thoughts and these worries and we exaggerate them. And so we need to keep that in mind too. If we change how we think, we can change how we feel. We focus outward, we're invariably going to feel better. And that's one of the keys in my experience to finding certainty in our lives, and is by looking outward. And, as Jesus Christ said, lose yourself in serving others, right? Become a servant of others.
So much of it, you're right, is the challenge and the struggles. It's in our head. And the good news is you have been able to survive all the worst thoughts in your head, right? You have 100% success rate of getting through your worst days. So you will get through this. But even if you're terrified, even if you're nervous, do it anyways. And you're going to find that action solves and cures most things that we're afraid of.
Do you have any other tips or bits of advice for an aspiring speaker, someone who wants to get out in media? We're coming up on a quick break here, but any last thoughts on how to overcome that hurdle?
Work with somebody who's done it, who is doing it. And, when I left broadcasting and ended up on the speaker tour, on the speaker circuit, my speaker coach, I went through speaker training with Bill Walsh with Power Team International. And he said, Angel, the first 100 times are practice. Just go out there and just do your best. And just know that the first 100 times are practice, and do it scared, but do it anyways and show up. And so find somebody you can learn from, and then just go out and do it over and over and over again. And even if it's awful, something's better than nothing. And it's progress over perfection every day.
Absolutely. I love that. Do it scared, but do it anyway, right? Isn't that how we do everything? We do business, we do marriage, we do parenting. We just got to do it, right? And we learn, we learn by doing, and we might fall on our face. And yet, as I said, most observers, most attendees, they have no idea. They don't know that you forgot half of your talk because they didn't write it, right? And so I think
they don't know that you left something out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're excited for you. And I have found that every audience is super supportive and full of grace and very encouraging.
Absolutely. Well, we're visiting with Angel Tuccy. She's one of the foremost media experts in the country. And in our next segment, we're going to hear a little bit more about what she does and how she does it, and how she's helping clients all over the country to not only overcome these fears, but truly get their message out in a way that is incomparable. So we'll be right back. Thanks for being with us here on Finding Certainty. Angel, thanks again for joining us.
All clear. Great segment. We'll be back in 2.
Thanks, Andrew. Goes fast.
It really does. It really does. We used to do 8-minute segments in broadcasting. I think the longest was maybe 17 minutes, but they were anywhere from 8 to 17 minutes. So yeah, it goes fast.
It always amazes me how fast the hour is over. You think, how am I going to fill up an hour with conversation, and it's over before you even get started? And you used to do a show every single day, didn't you?
2 shows.
Two
2
shows
shows every day.
every day.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, how many books have you written? Now, I know in your book it says 15 bestsellers. Is it even more than that now, or are you at 15 now?
So I haven't published one since Get Discovered. That's my most recent.
Okay.
I've been in a chapter in others, and I think probably I've been in 20 like total. Well, so I've done 15. I think I've done 8 where I've been a chapter in 8 other books. And then I've written the foreword for 7 others. So it's what is it, about 40 books, 30
Yeah,
books?
30, about 30, it sounds
15,
like.
15 plus 15. It's 30. Yeah,
23,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, so 30 books I've been a part of. And then of course we do the media and PR for probably 2 new books every single month. So we're involved in somebody's book project all the time.
Right. I want to talk a
And
little bit
soon we'll
about
do
that.
one for Patrick.
That's right. On my list.
Yeah, so these are the books we've done this year on my bookshelf.
Is that
So
right?
All right, we're coming
yeah.
back in 10 seconds.
All right. Thank you.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty, the best place to spend your Friday mornings. Visiting with Angel Tuccy. She's an award-winning media specialist, and you refer to yourself as a PR media specialist because that really is, I think, not only your expertise but your passion, right? Helping people get their stories out and doing it on steroids rather than doing it the slow and steady and exhausting way, right? So let's talk a little
I
bit
tell
about
people,
that.
yeah, I have the best job in the world because my clients call me when they have good news, right? And so we have an incredible distribution. We have an incredible network with journalists and podcasters and news stations and stages and events and magazine editors. I've been in this space for 15 years now. So we have an incredible network of publicity that we can offer to our clients. But they call me when they have good news. So Angel, right? We just got a new client. We're launching a new course. We're publishing a book. And right, we did this breakthrough for one of our customers, like whatever good news. And so somebody just called me today. They're starting a new publication for their membership. I get to be like the first one the first one they announce it to.
That's awesome.
Because we can write up a press release for them and get it out into the marketplace. And so, yeah, one to many, leveraging exposure, leveraging media. And I'll tell you what, Patrick, I could actually go off even on a tangent on how important it is to get your story out, leveraging media and leveraging your story on news sites because of the uptick of AI. And there's a whole new conversation going on around that. So I'll try and keep my thoughts like in line with where with this conversation. But
well, you're preaching to the choir.
PR is something that most small businesses, young organizations are not taking advantage of and not leveraging. They think it's only for large companies, celebrities, but honestly, every single day there are hundreds and thousands of media opportunities of journalists who are looking for stories, content, creators that they're looking for. They have radio networks to fill, podcast interview space to fill, like every single day, hundreds and thousands of media opportunities. And yet at the same time, there are business owners who are struggling to get leads, to get traffic, to build their audience, to get their followers. And that is the one thing that we have just absolutely mastered and tapped into, leveraging the power of PR in media.
What I love about it, Angel, is that there's these two enormous needs that are being met. The media are looking for great stories. They're looking for news, right? There's a website I was introduced to called Haro, Help a Reporter Out, right? They're actively looking for their next story. And then you have businesses who are actively looking for leads and customers and getting their story out. So why not just marry the two? I mean, that's what you're talking about, right? And
that's how I got the name Media Matchmaker, right? So journalists and edit, like, they reach out to me and say, Angel, who do you know? I need a guest. I need this. Who do you know? And then I have this incredible network of authors, speakers, coaches, business organizations who are looking, and I get to put them together.
Well, I have
and so I know you talked about Haro. We created an incredible Facebook group, kind of in the same concept. If you're looking, we call it the best online group to find guests and get booked. Because if you're a podcaster, you can post your needs, right? What you're looking for guests. And then if you want to be a guest, you can introduce yourself. And it's our Media Matchmaker site. We just crossed over 19,000 members in the group.
Wow. So I have a good friend named Simone Kavalheim. I think you may even know her. She's a fan of Bill Walsh and has been to many of his events. And she's like my go-to person. If I have a guest who cancels last minute and I need help filling it, I'm gonna have to put you on speed dial for that, because I know that. I mean, I'm in media, and I have, on a weekly basis, I have had multiple times where somebody has had a emergency in their family, or they've forgotten, double booked me or something, and I'm scrambling to find a guest at the last minute. And so I understand that, it's now.
Yeah, it's very real. It is we have the same thing.
Yeah. And I just read your book, Get Discovered. And this is, we were talking on the break. You're not just a best-selling author. You've been involved in, either written the foreword, written a chapter, or written the entire book of 30 or more publications now. You've written 15 of your own. And now you're helping other authors to not only get their book written, but actually get it published. And so I want to talk a little bit about your publishing side of your business. But first, let's talk about the difference between the old way, or the traditional approach, and what you teach, and why it is so fantastic. Because I've been a part of networking groups where I go every week, and I know the 30 or 40 people, and we're trying to find leads for each other. And you're there at 7:00 every Wednesday morning, or the one-on-one.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing for 6 years. We were involved with a really incredible networking group every Wednesday morning, 7:30 a.m. Rain, snow, rain, because it was in Denver. Right. And that's what we were taught. And, that was kind of the methodology, was building relationships, having one-on-one coffee meetings, right? To get to know each other better, referring others, because referrals are incredibly valuable, right? Because when you get a referral, they're pretty much a sure thing, right? Like, they need you, they've been referred to you, you don't have to convince them. And so we love referrals. But building your business, I call these babies, this is how a baby builds their business, wearing a onesie, right? No more onesies. Mm-hmm. Building your business, one person at a time, one sales call, one coffee meeting. If you are truly scaling a business and trying to get into a couple commas, right, into your income and revenue, so over that 6-figure mark, you need to get your business in front of and leverage the power of one to many, right? One to media, speaking to an audience. And a really simple way to even start that, and we leveraged this. I found my calendar was overbooked. I was drinking way too much coffee throughout the day. And you're hoping that somebody will refer you, right? And then when you get that referral, you're just like, you hold on to it like a dog with a bone, right? Like, I'm not going to let this go. And it's a struggle for small businesses, because you're counting on these referrals, which while they're super high quality, they are slow and you have no control over how quickly they come in. And this is that, and you probably, I mean, people talk about funnels, right? The funnel system, put a whole bunch of people in, and then you get like one or two that trickle out the bottom. And the reason that you need a whole bunch of people in is because they're probably not your ideal target audience. They're not qualified, right? There's a whole lot of things about them that aren't a fit. And so you've got to kind of squeeze out the list until you get that one customer with lots of follow-up, lots of chasing. But imagine, right, instead of the one, like, getting that one customer out, instead you're speaking twice a week. My secret formula is 2 + 1. 2 interviews a week where you leverage somebody else's audience, maybe borrow somebody else's audience, somebody who has a podcast, a radio show, a television show, right? When we started, it was radio, television, magazines. And 2 years ago, we added podcasts, virtual stages, and summits to the mix. But getting in front of your target audience, where you're invited in and you're like the celebrity in the space, because you get to talk about being the expert, the thing you're most passionate about, that you could, if I handed you a microphone and said, without any research, what could you passionately speak about for 20 minutes? Imagine being invited in, having a room full of your target audience that showed up to hear you, to listen to that production, and you give really great content. You're adding super value, a ton of value to the network and to the audience. And then you have a really great call to action that if this makes sense, you want more information, you want to continue this conversation, use that to build your audience. And if at the same time you're the author of a book, so not only am I the expert, I wrote the book on it, encourage people to go and buy your book, which is the easiest thing to sell in a media interview, the only thing you can sell in a traditional radio, television spot that you haven't paid advertising for. And so imagine you did 2 interviews a week, you sold 25 copies of your book. That's $5,000 in passive sales, passive revenue that you could create for your company. You don't have to get it on your calendar. There's no one-on-one time. The book is like a love letter to your clients, getting them into your sales castle. You create an extra 15 grand per quarter. That's just passive income, doing 2 interviews a week, 1 press release a month, selling your book. It's an incredible ecosystem that is fun, profitable, exciting, and puts you in front of the right people, and you're able to monetize. You're able to monetize your exposure.
Well, it's like we were saying before, every one of us is an expert at something. Because I think one of the questions people have is, well, what do I have to share that would be interesting, would be of value? And that's one of the things you're so good at, is drawing that out of your clients and identifying it. Because I know, in your book, Get Discovered, which I highly recommend everyone out there, go to Amazon, pick it up, Angel Tuccy, Tuccy, Get Discovered. It talks through much of this process and these steps to doing this successfully, right? And you talk about 2 errors that people make as they're trying to promote their business. And the first one is that they don't have a clear lane. They're trying to be too many things to too many people, right? You've got to be, pick a lane, be an expert in one area, because how do you promote something over and over and over on multiple stages when it's a different message every time, right? And secondly, as you just said, you have to have a clear call to action. Doesn't do you any good to go speak if you don't invite them to go to your website or text in a word to your opt-in, and we can talk a little bit about the media and some of the things that we can do to help. And those are the 2 errors that people make. I've made them, right? I've tried to do too many things and serve in too many ways, and rather than just being the expert at one thing, which now I'm building that following and that story as an expert in certainty. I mean, that's my goal, is to help people find more certainty in their lives and in their businesses. There's a lot of definitions of that. There can be multiple layers to it, but you have to pick a lane. And so talk about those two topics. Why are they so important in your mind? And if people aren't doing it, they're missing the boat.
Yeah. So often people come to me and they've got tons of things that they're doing, right? I've got this business, I've got this idea, I can speak on this. And there are programs that encourage you to have a list of speaking topics, right? Have 10 different speaking topics that you can speak on, so that, right, you get to be your jack of all trades, an expert of none. But thinking that's going to help you book more speaking opportunities when you have a variety of things that you can speak on. But in fact, it's the opposite. If you come to me and say, Angel, what do you want me to speak on? I'm like, well, if you don't know what you're like truly the most expert in, I don't want you on my stage. I want you to come to say, Angel, I speak on certainty. This is exactly what I'm going to give your audience. These are the takeaways they're going to get, and this is the results they're going to see after hearing me speak. Because if you're trying to figure it out, and I'll tell you, Patrick, when I started speaking on the speaking circuit, I started traveling around with a group of speakers who we would speak at these expos where there were anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 attendees. And the night before, these speakers would be putting together their talks, trying to putting together their PowerPoint, putting together their signature talk, which, then they don't have the sales funnel built in on the back end of what they're going to deliver. And it was insanity. But if you can stay in one lane, pick your absolute expertise, then you have a clear call to action, because I say exposure without a call to action is wasted exposure. But you have one clear call to action. You're attracting your ideal target audience. Build that one lane, that one expertise, that one funnel up until it is completely monetized, right? Be making 6 figures a month in that space, and then go and add something else that you can also speak on. But stay and build it up, become the absolute icon in that industry for that niche. And when you do, I promise you, we can create an entire ecosystem of media opportunities and exposure and visibility. And it's a game changer. And I promise you, it's way more fun being the expert of one than jack of all trades.
Well, way less exhausting, right? We were talking about how the one-on-one approach and the networking and all it's like the Energizer Bunny. You're constantly going, and you have to be running 100 miles an hour to make any sort of headway. I mean, there's a reason most small businesses are making less than 100,000 a year, is because they're doing that approach, and it's just not effective. I know it. I've done it for years. It's how I've tried to build my business, and it does not work. And yet what's interesting,
Patrick, I had a guy actually come up with like 6 business cards and said, pick one. I do all these things. It was crazy. Who taught you that?
Yeah. And I it's painful to admit, but my business card, for a long time, I've had 6 bullet points on the back of all the different things we do for customers, instead of just identifying it into and clarifying it into one message. To your point, not only is it more effective, but it's more fun when you can really wrap your arms around and pick an area or topic that you really enjoy, you're really passionate about, you're good at, you can talk about all day, talk about in your sleep. That's where things start to get magical. Wouldn't you agree?
That's a great word for it. It is truly magical. And we think it's got to be hard. But what if it was easy? Right. What if there was already an audience looking for you, and you just got to stay in your lane where you're most passionate about, and attracting the clients on that one clear result that you can provide for them? Total game changer. It'll ease up and remove all the stress out of your business.
Well, we're up against another break. We're just going to take a quick break, and we'll be back. I want to talk a little more about your publishing business and how you're helping people become that published author, what you do for them, because I do believe being a published author does a great deal for this messaging and for your clients. It lends instant credibility, and it just kind of elevates their game. I know you agree. So let's go to break real quick. We're visiting with Angel Tuccy. very, I'm very happy with how this conversation is going, Angel. I really appreciate your time. I think this is such an important topic. Every small business out there who's listening should be paying close attention to this. We'll share some information at the end about how you can get a hold of Angel, and she and her team can help you do this better. But we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for listening.
All clear. Fantastic segment. We're going to be back in about 2 minutes.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. All right.
Is this all right? Is this doing okay?
Fantastic. Yeah, that's good. I just think I mean everything I'm saying. You know, I feel like it's a game changer for customers, and yet so many, they don't know where to start, right? They need some coaching, they need some direction, they need to know, where do I find the media outlets to get on their stages? How do I contact them? What do I say when I do? You know, and how do I do a good interview? I mean, there's a lot of questions surrounding it, because I think it makes, and we can talk about this when we come back from break. Obviously, I always say on the YouTube video, you get the back, you know, the backstory and in between chat, but I think I don't think there's a lot of people out there who would disagree with this topic. I think the question is more how do we do it, right? Maybe we can talk about that in the last segment before we run out of time, but without giving away too many secrets, right? I want them to reach out to you, but
yeah, no, I can give we have, I mean, the like, once you open up the door, and we have a lot of how-to gifts that we can give, right? I can give the media starter kit that gets their foot in the door and opens the door. And we can give some tips here today as well. And then what I find, like, just a lot of people end up doing, it's like, I could do it myself, but then it's just nicer to have somebody else be my representative and go out and, you know, have a publicity coach, right?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to people are just busy, you know, with this approach.
We've got about 10 seconds till we come back.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Nice job, Andrew.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Well, you're listening to Finding Certainty. I'm with my good friend and special guest, Angel Tuccy. We're talking about how to access media and take your business, your book, and your brand to a whole new level. And how it's not only easy to do, if you know how to do it, it's not only easy, but it's actually a lot of fun. Angel, I really appreciate your insights. You know, as we were saying on the break, and anyone who's listening to this, we also shoot a YouTube video while we're recording the live broadcast. And I always say in the YouTube video, you kind of get the behind the scenes chat. So in between the breaks. So if you want to go back and watch the YouTube, you'll gain even more insights. But we were talking about how I don't think it's a question in most people's minds that this approach makes sense. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? If you can talk to thousands of people instead of just one, if you can leverage other people's platforms and other people's audiences, and you're bringing them content and value, and they're bringing you exposure, and it's just a great marriage, right? But the question for most of us, and I think for our listeners, is how do we do that? Where do we start, and what game plan, I guess, is the best way to say it. What game plan do I need to do it effectively? What would you say to that, Angel? I know you teach customers that. I don't want you to, share your entire program here, but do you have any insights for customers and for listeners in how to do that?
I absolutely do. And thank you for asking, because we want to make sure that there's value here, right? Don't just leave them hanging. Right. I do have a media starter guide, a complimentary media starter guide that we can give to your audience that has a lot of resources built in, headlines that you can use to send to the media, a guaranteed media list that you can get your foot in the door and get started. So we have a bunch of resources we put together. But you talked about one, like there's three things that I would recommend. And the first one is becoming that expert in your space, right? It's focusing in on one core topic, one core expertise. And this is probably the topic that people want to pick your brain about. They're asking you about all the time, right? So once you have your core topic, like your keyword, this is what I'm an expert at and a specialist in. Then we want to start to find out, are there even media opportunities in that space, right? Are there magazines? Are there journalists? Are there podcasts like covering this topic? And one of the things we can do is some research. And I'm a big fan of just taking a couple minutes and doing some research on, some of these pieces, because you want to go where you fit. You want to go where you belong. You don't want to have to convince somebody, you should have me a guest on your show. I talk about horses and they only talk about rabbits, right? Like they're not going to have you on their show. You're not a fit. We want to make sure that when we send a media query or respond to something or send a pitch out, that it's going where you belong. And so we want to build relationships and we want to find where you belong. And I'm going to give you a really sexy tip on how to do that. But the third piece, and you talked about it as well, is to become an author. Being a published author opens up so many doors for opportunity. And we get to say, not only do we have the expert here, but they wrote the book on it. And one of the easiest ways to write the book on it is what I call your CPP method: copy, paste, and publish. Taking your content, the stuff that's in your head on your website, frequently asked questions, emails, social media posts, blog posts, right? Taking the content and writing a 100-page love letter to your clients. This is great for onboarding. This is great for a low ticket offer. It's the number one thing you can sell in a media interview, how to monetize your exposure, but it also is a great onboarding tool for brand new clients, or if they're not quite ready to take that step with you, it's a baby step for them getting involved in your programs. And so CPP, write a 100-page love letter, 25,000 words, and become the published author in that space. And so when you take that, I call it your media magnet. It's the topic that when I think of you, I think of this topic. When I think of this topic, I think of you. This is what attracts you together. And so do you mind if I just use you as an experiment, Patrick, for this?
Not at all. Go ahead, go for it.
Not at all. Right. If I was to ask you, what is your topic? And I know you said certainty is a thing, but it means a lot of things to a lot of people. But if I was going to pitch you to the media, what topic would they be covering that they'd want to have you as to interview you or to quote you in an article? What would the segment be about?
Well, I've struggled with that because we are at our core a profitability consulting firm. We help clients make more and save more. But the topic I'm really passionate about and why profit even matters is it comes down to being certain in where you're at, where you're going. So this topic, as I think about the book I'd want to write, the topic I want to speak on, it is how to create more certainty in your life. Our show is called Finding Certainty, but so often it's not just going out and finding, it's creating it. It's making those decisions. It's connecting with the right people. It's learning the skills. It's making the decisions that will help you be on a certain path. And you're not guessing, you're not hoping things work. You're not uncertain. I think there's a lot of uncertainty out there, whether it's with politics of the world or the inflation or global warming or a lot of the pandemic. Obviously, there's massive uncertainty that was going on. And so how do we hedge against that? How do we make sure that we are at peace?
So what's interesting is that you are an ideal candidate, right? For our media mastery, right? Because we have this language that we use and this result we want to get out to our clients. But what we really want to do is focus on, like, what are the trends? What's keeping our clients up at night? Like, what are they thinking about? And is it uncertainty? If you were to look at your ideal clients and what's keeping them up at night, what they're worried about, that you solve for. And if I type in uncertainty into a Google search bar, so for your audience, your topic that you want to be known for, the expert that you are in this space, right? That people want to come to you. This is what challenge you solve for your clients, what you passionately speak on. I typed in uncertainty. Actually, I did both. I did certainty in life and uncertainty. And so I'll give you the example. So when I type this search into a Google search engine, we want to find what news outlets are talking about this. We want to go where we belong, right? Where we fit. And so what media outlets are already covering this subject? And certainty in your life, I got about 12,000 results in media opportunities. And what's interesting is the New York Times back February, Inman Magazine back in September, a month ago, Sarasota Herald Tribune, ACI Africa back in August. Like, it's not necessarily something current that media is covering. So then I typed in uncertainty. This is, again, where we want to do a little bit of homework, a little bit of research to make sure we're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. I like proof of concept, right? I like social proof.
Yeah.
So 52,000 results for uncertainty in the media opportunities. 8 hours ago, a news site called Seeking Alpha, Psychology Today 1 day ago, Yahoo Finance 1 day ago, CNN 23 hours ago, another Psychology Today 3 days ago, USA Today 2 days ago, CNBC 20 hours ago, Market Watch 23 hours ago. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Uncertainty is a topic being talked about in the media today. Would that be valuable for you, Patrick, to be an expert resource for them, to be quoted, for them to have an article on one of their sites, to have a press release out that puts you as the expert in authority, become the number one authority in your niche? I would say we have something here. And so I said our formula is 2 + 1, 2 interviews a week, leveraging other people's podcasts, stages, magazines, radio, television, you speaking, right, to somebody else's audience. You still do yours, right? And you get to be other people's stages, right, for other people. But I want you to be a guest out on other people's platforms. And then 1 press release a month. We're going to control the narrative. We're going to position you as the authority in your space. And then when it comes to the uptick of AI generated content, it's out scouring websites for its content. And the most powerful place for you to have your story out is on news sites. So when people Google you, when they search for you, when clients are trying to decide if they should work with you, we want to saturate the market and we want to dominate your story, leveraging other people's sites. And you can do that with a news site that has millions of followers, millions of reach. And we can do that every single month and create guaranteed content, guaranteed SEO, guaranteed visibility, guaranteed relationships with journalists, and get those as seen on CNBC, as seen on Market Watch, as seen on USA Today, as seen on Psychology Today. That would be valuable, don't you think?
100%. We could do a whole topic just on this, a whole episode on this. Unfortunately, we're up against our time block, and you've hit on several things, and I encourage you all, if you're listening to this, to reach out to Angel, learn about how she can not just help you write your book, but promote it. She can help you do the PR, put you on a media circuit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You heard just a couple of tips here. This is the tip of the iceberg of what Angel can teach you in this space. So how do our listeners get a hold of you, Angel?
Well, I would love to give them this complimentary media starter guide that has all sorts of resources for them that they can just plug and play. They can find it at my website, makeyourbigimpact.com. That's makeyourbigimpact.com. I'm also going to give them access to our Facebook group, the best online group for finding guests and getting booked. We have over 19,000 members, lots of media opportunities happening every single day. So we're going to solve traffic for you. We're going to solve credibility for you. We're going to solve exposure for you, and we're going to help you monetize it on the back end. So become the #1 authority in your niche by going to makeyourbigimpact.com and getting your complimentary media starter guide today.
And you can not only make your big impact, but you can just love the journey. And that's what I love about it, Angel. I mean, you say you have the best job in the world, but if you can approach your business in this way, I think your whole business becomes more fun, more lucrative, obviously, and really more impactful. You can truly leave a legacy. So thank you for being here today, Angel. Reach out to her, everyone. There's a lot of different ways she can help you. There's a free media, what do you call it? A media kit?
Yes, a media starter guide.
Starter guide, that's it. I encourage you to connect with Angel. And Angel, thanks for being here today. Always a pleasure. I really appreciate our friendship, and I'm learning a lot, and I'll absolutely be one of your customers. So thanks for listening to Finding Certainty. Certainty is out there. You can find it, and we can help. I wish you the very best. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
All clear. Great job today, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Angel.
Take care. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you next time.
Take care, bud. So we're still recording on the YouTube video. Yeah, I know you have to go, but any last things you want to share or anything else before we go?
Patrick, you do a great job. That was a really fun and engaging conversation. So yeah, thank you for making it so easy and fun. And if there's any other resources I can provide, just even to you or any of your guests, if you ever have like a celebrity guest or a big name guest and you want to create some publicity around that, or I don't know, how many episodes have you done so far on your show?
I've started last August, so a weekly show ever since then. I think I'm up to about 40 now, 35 or 40. I've had some great guests.
Think about, we can do a PR on like a milestone. So if you hit like a certain number of downloads, finally reached 100,000, or 1 million, right? Or something like that could be really fun. A transformation you've done for one of your clients. And truly would love for you to get help with, help you get that book out into the marketplace as well. Because you think being a podcaster and being like doing this is good. Wait till you have that book and you're doing a book tour and monetizing it on the back end. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, one thing you say, I know you have to go, but one thing you talk about is how you can truly make money selling your book. It's not just a promotion piece, just a credibility.
So often
it can actually be a revenue stream.
Yeah, people, and I believed it too, would say there's no money in the book, right? You just write it for the credibility. You go and get the bestsellers, stamp of approval. But truly think about this, 7 books a day, right? And 7 people you could text, you could send an email out, you could just, sell on the airplane, sell it to your Uber driver, like 7 sales a day is $5,000 a month, and 25 books per interview, right? That's another, right? That's 200 books a month. If you were selling 200 books a month, you could create 5K in sales. 100 books a day is $1 million in sales. And the reason why I think most people don't promote that you can sell your book is because they don't have a lead source for getting in front of new audiences, right? I already asked all my family. I already asked all my followers. I already asked my email list, right? I already went to this group of people. That's all I got. But if you are in front of a new audience every single week, and like you held up my book, you were promoting the book, people go and buy the book in front of a brand new audience. If you have 2 interviews a week, that's 100 audiences, 100 fresh new audiences seeing your book and buying it, and it's passive income. So we've been testing it. And so I always say exposure without a call to action is wasted exposure. If all you do is tell people to buy your book but use it as a lead magnet to go and buy your book, send them to your castle, right? grab their first party data, go to patricklang.com, right? And you'll get access to come buy my book. And when you get there, you're also going to get this free gift, right? You're going to get a chance to buy my book, and you're going to get this free gift, something for you, something for me, right? You get their contact information. Then you send them off to go purchase the book over on Amazon, like keep them in your castle first. And then now you can follow up with them. They can go buy the book. The book turns them, if they read any of it, they save it. I mean, it's a game changer. It's a game changer.
And it's an audience that you can continue to build that relationship with, and announce your next book and your next speaking event and your next opportunity, and the list goes on and on. So
right. And so whenever you're like, this is the thing, is we think profits come first, like we're out making money, but truly exposure comes first. When you have an audience of people that you can promote to that are excited, now you have people that will buy your stuff when you launch it. So go build your audience first, go build your following, go build your brand, your community, build that up. And the fastest and most fun way, like you said, is to go and find them, right, from other people's programs. So radio, television, magazines, use that, because there's people out there who are going to totally relate to you. They're going to connect with you. They're going to want to be a part of your community, want to know more about you. And so they're already pre-qualified when they get in your funnel this way.
Right. Well, I know you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. You're headed into a summit right now, right? To speak to who knows how many people.
Yeah, this summit that I'm on.
You lead by example.
Yeah, I do. I personally do 2 a week. I've got my tracker, and I created we got to have merchandise, right? I created a tracker, right? So that I can track all of my media opportunities. So 2 a week, I can keep track of my journalists in here, my media leads in here. It's got a daily habit tracker, a weekly guide, and then a monthly calendar. So I'm just actually moving into this one because my fiscal year runs, it actually runs April 1 to March 31. So I'm a little behind, but it is, track your exposure and do 2 interviews a week and become obsessed with what you want, because you get what you think about most of the time. So
couldn't agree more.
I hope this was helpful for you, Patrick. This was a lot of fun for me, and I'm sorry that I squeezed in, back to back today. But I'm really glad we were able to make it work.
No worries. I appreciate your time, Angel. We'll talk lots more. And thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Have fun.
You bet. All right, Patrick. Have a great weekend.
You as well. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.